throughout the coast, bringing information to our community, always bringing guests to share what the work they're doing and how we can continue bettering our community. Today, I have a good friend on this show. I have Noah for a very long time, so please forgive us. We go a little bit off time today. But his name is Jim Cox. Jim Cox, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm well. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today, Pastor.
Hey, it's always a pleasure having you in my presence.
Thank you.
Jim, you do a whole lot, so I guess I'm first actually, can you give us some of the things you do? I mean, my
Sure.
goodness.
Well, I've slowed down a little bit over the years, Pastor Cole. So, presently what I do is I work part-time for Pitt County Planning Department, so Pitt County, within the Planning Department. And they have a housing unit there. So, working part-time, and I do education, outreach, and special projects working with Miss Lynn James regarding issues related to housing and homelessness.
Right. And Jim, I'm going to go back a little bit in your background.
Sure.
You and I, man, we went to a gentleman named Mr. Cott in his field doing the sweet, and it wasn't a sweet potato, but picking up corn and string beans and squash and planting.
That's right.
Jim, you've been involved with the disaster recovery here in Greenville when we had Matthew that came in. Jim, you've been involved with the Joy Soup Kitchen and helping. I mean, you have a whole lot on your belt, man. I mean, and I know that I'm so glad, I will say this on there, I'm so glad that you're back and still helping in the community. You retired and came back because we don't know what retirement really is when we're not helping the people. And I'm so glad to have you because I felt so alone out here. I felt like the last of the Mohicans out here, man. Nobody's out here. And that I know that we have communication. And you have seen the transition of the community shelter, going back to the We Care program, the work that you have done. You sat on the human relation with Cassandra Daniels. Jim, we just really appreciate you, man. We really do appreciate all the work that you have been doing and still doing in this community.
Well, I appreciate that, Pastor Coles. And, it's kind of a running joke with folks. I've retired about 3 or 4 times now. So this most recent time when I came back, there were some special projects that Lynn wanted me to help with, and I said I would be glad to do that. But I've been in the community since I moved to Greenville. Our family moved to Greenville in 1984. So we've been around, and that was to go to graduate school at East Carolina, and we're going to spend a couple years here, and the rest is history. Bought a house and started to have kids, and so the rest is history. So I tell people I'm an old social worker. I have a master's degree in social work from East Carolina, and have been very fortunate to be able to do a lot of things in this community, and have always felt that it's part of my responsibility to give back. So we've shared lots of experiences over the years in terms of different things. So worked at the hospital for a number of years, in Children's Hospital. Wow. And actually, I was a faculty member in the School of Social Work for a period of time, and then back over to the hospital. And I think we started to work together through our work with Access East.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
wow,
so I
forgot
think,
about that.
Yeah, I worked with Access East for a long time before I retired the first time. So, yeah, been around. So.
And well connected with so many people because you're not just in the Pitt County, but you're in Martin County and Beaufort County. And, those are the type of things that we need folks who've been around. It's kind of hard when you're in a new ministry or in the ministry itself and people you don't build those relationships with that, they disappear, But I do want to share that knowing that the work that you have done in our community, in these communities, I mean, you understand that term, I said service is the rent you pay for the space you take up on earth, and you have been paying your rent, man.
I appreciate
so
that.
we really appreciate you on the work that you're doing. Now that I know that you're back working with the community shelter, well, welcome back. Yeah, welcome back, college. Only y'all know that's our A show there.
Yeah.
But the knowing that you were there at the shelter, I mean, so for those who don't know, what is the count? We may have some folks for the first time.
So one of the things we want to talk about today is that the point-in-time count, and that's one of the projects that I work on. It's an annual count that takes place across our nation, and it's a count of people experiencing homelessness in our nation, in our cities, locally, in terms of things. It happens once a year. Typically, it's the last week in January, and sometimes it's not the best in terms of weather, but actually the count, we have opportunity to begin our count tonight. And again, this takes place across our nation. And it's a count of both people that are in emergency shelters. So our friends at Community Crossroads, I mean, they have a roster of people that are at our shelters, so we'll know those people automatically. But then we make an effort to go out in the community in terms of engaging people that are actually unsheltered. So that's the count that will start tonight. And we have tonight, some communities go out at night. Some communities, your larger urban areas, will do that. We choose to do what we call our, it's a service count where we have the next 6 days to go out and engage people in the community that are unsheltered tonight, the night of the 29th. So that's our first question. Where did you spend the night the 29th? And then, so we'll be at different locations. We'll be down at the Soup Kitchen tomorrow and Friday. We're going to be at Jarvis Church over there. We've made arrangements to be over there. They have a walk-in, ministry there, so we're going to be over there. We're going to be at the Salvation Army on Monday. And again, what we try to do is go to locations where people are seeking help and shelter. So we have a very brief survey. It's a voluntary count. And then we also make efforts to go out in the community where there may be people that are living unsheltered. So we do that also in terms of things. But it's a voluntary count happening nationally. And what it does, it gives us an opportunity to connect with those individuals. But also, those numbers are the numbers that go forward to Congress. And so when they look at Pitt County, they look at Martin County, they look at Bertie County, those are the numbers that they look at in terms of people that are experiencing homelessness. And again, it's very much a snapshot. We know that it's probably a small percentage of the people that are actually experiencing homelessness that we're going to actually engage. But again, it's a little bit of a benchmark. A brief survey, as I say, it's a voluntary survey. And then these numbers go up the line. And then ultimately they're reported to Congress. And it really does. They look at those numbers in terms of funding. So that's why it's important for us to participate in the count.
So let me make sure this is something that helps us in our community on programs and funding could come through Congress.
That's right.
So without having this, we could lose fundings or we may not get fundings for it. And this is all volunteer and just a simple survey. Now I'm going to throw a
Go
little.
ahead. I trust it.
You can
I trust
have
it.
a hypothetical question. We go back when Paula White was with
Sure.
us, and I mean, we never had what she put together at the Greenville Convention Center. It was called, I forgot the name, and Walter Strivey was with
It
us.
was probably in the early 2000s.
Project something, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I could find it in my.
That was before my time. But I remember attending that.
Okay, and it was something. It was dealing with the homeless, or it was a 10-year plan.
That's right.
So here's a question. It's just we're just talking on
Sure.
it. Do you see? And I know I have seeing there's a lot of more homelessness in our community because I see it not just here, but other places I go at.
Yeah. So just, and I'm going to get to answer your question, but kind of broad based, you were talking about involvement in other counties. And you and I share that experience. So kind of the structure of services for the homeless is what we call, it comes under the umbrella of a community care, continuum of care rather. And we are part of the North Carolina Balance of State, and we are Region 12, which encompasses 5 counties. So it's Washington, Bertie, Martin, Beaufort, and Pitt County. So those are our partner counties in Region 12. So when we're talking about doing these activities, we partner with those counties. And that's why we've had lots of conversation over the years about these other counties, because we share experiences with these other counties. So during this count, we'll have activity in those other counties too. So they're going to be going through the same process that we're going through here in Pitt County. Our numbers will come together. In terms of the numbers, I believe I copied. You can go online and actually research this. And I think that last year's total count, I think that this is both sheltered and unsheltered in Pitt County, we were able to identify 132 individuals. And again, that's a snapshot. And so this year, we'll see what the numbers are. So those are people that are staying in shelter, and those are people staying on the street too. And I think just from an anecdotal, I think our numbers are going up.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are. I mean, we've talked about that in terms of things. I think that we've seen, housing become more difficult to obtain. We've seen rents go up in terms of our housing, and there are different. When people think of people experiencing homelessness, and again, one of the things I want to stress is that when you talk about a person experiencing homeless, it doesn't define them. It just defines their current living situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the person; it's the person's current living situation. I think that's important to remember because it's really across the spectrum in terms of people that are experiencing homelessness. And I think lots of times people have that perception of that individual on the street, maybe, that they see hanging out on a corner or something like that. And certainly that's a percentage of our population. But as you and I know, there's a lot of people that come in and out of homelessness, because of life's, things that come to them. And so we have a percentage of people that are defined as being chronically homeless. And again, there are definitions for all of these things. But those are individuals that have been experiencing homelessness for about a year, maybe a little bit longer, that have some type of disability, that's associated with that. But also the majority of our homeless are people that come in and out of homelessness in terms of things. That for whatever reason, maybe they experience something from a medical standpoint or from a financial standpoint that they land up homeless. Or they have a debilitating condition or things like that. But those are the majority of our homeless folks. And we see that oftentimes at Community Crossroads Center. And I do have an office. I've had linkage with Community Crossroads Center for a number of years, and they are kind enough to give me an office there. So that's where I hang out my shingle in terms of there. So, but a lot of, I don't like that word a lot, but people will rotate in and out of homelessness, maybe be there for a period of time and then work their way out. So you're right. I think just from my perspective, I think our numbers have increased in terms of things, but keeping in mind there are different types of homelessness.
Jim, you said a whole lot right there because when you looked at the rents are high, there's folks had to move back in with their parents.
That's right.
I mean, these is like conversations I get, and then moving with the kid. She
Absolutely.
thought that maybe, she could make a
Absolutely.
day room. The day room and the book room have gone goodbye because they had to come back. And I got a call from a gentleman, I won't call his name out, and because of economics so high in some folks, Jim, you have a lot of folks living in their vehicles.
Yes.
And I was in a situation when they called, and I didn't know what to do. But because I knew him, and I went there with another person, there was a mother in the car with the blanket, and he gave the description, everything he said of that vehicle with the baby in the car. The child got to be about maybe 6 or 7 years old, give and take. But this woman wasn't scared at all. We called the cops, and nothing you could do to them. She was sitting in her car, running her car. Her license plate was good. Her insurance was good. There was nothing you can do to find. She wasn't endangering the child, but she went through and she put us on Facebook, whatever, the camera. Yeah, she did that on her phone, and blah blah blah. It didn't matter. But in the meanwhile, I know that she was going through something, but she didn't want help. And when you mentioned, we know there's so many people going through things,
Absolutely.
and that put them into that situation. And I'm gonna also, I may be saying some things, I hope I don't hurt people's feelings, but life is what it is. We need people to contribute a lot to the community shelter because that's the only place we have, Jim. Even though they're building another people, we need more. We need more money. We need to build it out. And for folks looking at this broadcast, there's people living in the street with their kids. We need more facilities where they can bring children in there in a temporarily thing, But
That's right.
These are things that happen, and this is our community now, in our own community, and this is what I saw right here on, even though paying no mind, beautiful car. It wasn't no regular car. But there's how many more we have that stays in Harry Teeter's or Target mall in the car and sleeping, and because of
Circumstances. That's right.
circumstances. So I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned it, and we know that rents have gotten so high on folks. I mean, it's I can't even imagine. I mean, how can somebody afford that? I mean,
Yeah.
wherever one bedrooms are $1,000 or something dollars, and we haven't in this state here. We haven't went to the real minimum wages yet. We still at that Mickey Mouse stuff. We're not even at $15. But you know what, Jim? Everything else still going up.
That's right.
I mean, you go to a car dealership. I mean, I try to find a car used to be 25, 30,000. You talking about 60, 70,000? I said, man, I'm gonna get me a skateboard, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That and Jim, it happened even with working people, Jim.
Absolutely.
People forget the working people. Oh, just these folks. There's working people struggling, man.
Absolutely, Pastor Coles. And that's what I mean. The face of homelessness is so different. It's just not one face. It is not one face. And as I say, I was over at Community Crossroads today, and I told Charles Young, who's the executive director, that I was coming over here. And he said certainly pass his regards on to Pastor Coles, but they have an expansion going on there right now. They have a building project. And what they're doing is, if you drive by there's a new building going up over there adjacent to the current, but they're going to be kind of moving things around there. But they're creating, I think, 6 new family rooms, because you speak
Awesome.
of families,
Wow.
and that's a need that they've determined there's a need for. So in their construction, they have a timeline, but ultimately they will have 6 additional family rooms over there. And that was in response to a need that they identified, as you say, for families. So,
And I noticed that we have a lot of new developments here, and I have to say they have been working a lot on working with Section 8 vouchers, a percentage of them living in them, which that's good, and I see that continue building.
it's wonderful, yeah.
That's building up here. So it's really always about folks like you, me, others. And I want to say this on air. We lost a good friend, an angel, a trooper of this community, Margaret Dixon, who was a person, a leader in so many things. She helped me with getting things done here. And I mean, take my hat off, and my heart continue going for the work that she have done. People like that have made Lynn James, there's so many of us here. Bob Thompson, that folks have made so much big impact into this community. And I may miss a lot of people, but the point is, I'm trying to say, we're glad that we're able to continue making these steps that continue helping in the community and working with, because we see this. I mean, we don't need to read the book Toxic Charity. We see it right in front of us. Things are going on right in our face that we dealt with years, and it takes everybody to work together, Jim.
It does. It takes a community. It does.
Yeah. So with this count here, this is going to help us with numbers, because you can't go to Congress or anybody without having numbers.
Well, and again, in what I tell people, I mean, we have a team of volunteers that's going to be working with us in terms of doing the count. But it's as much about connecting people with resources, too. This is an opportunity. So we have the count, and it's a voluntary survey, but also it's an opportunity to engage people, and get information from them that we can follow up with them later. So kind of a twofold opportunity for us to certainly engage them in terms of the count, but also offer some resources to them, too, in terms of, down the road.
So it's giving them resource, at the same time helping them get themselves better and find out what's happening. That's the key of this whole thing here.
It is.
Is there anything you want to share with the community? Any help you need from them that you want to share with the community?
At this point, as I say, the count, actually, our count will begin tonight. So we are pretty much lined up for these next 6 days in terms of different locations. I guess just to advise people, to let people know that the count is going on. What we do is we typically offer people, Lynn and I spent yesterday, or a portion of yesterday, we buy book bags and put items in the book bags that somebody may benefit from that is living on the street put socks and hats and gloves and things like that in. So we were packing book bags yesterday, and we have some gift cards to go along with that, just as a little thank you, for individuals that are willing to participate in the count. So we have that together. But I think just to let people know that the count is going on, and that we're going to be doing this in the community, and that and just be aware that we do have homeless people in this community. That people are working with in terms of trying to connect them with resources and link them with services, and ultimately with somebody homeless, if they're interested in resources, is to move them from being in an emergency shelter to permanency. That's the goal, and we do have programs. A friend of ours, Miss Dolores Farmer, you know Dolores, and you work with her. There's a program, a rapid rehousing program, and she works with Lynn too, that we move people out of the shelter and move them into permanence, into housing, and support them for a period of time so they become more independent in terms of things. So,
Well, Jim, I know as people see folks on the street, is there a number they can call us? And we have some folks over this area here. Could y'all check these out?
So we have flyers out. We put
Okay.
flyers out, volunteers. We have volunteers from the city and county. And so the number, I'm going to give you Lynn James' number. And so her number is on the flyer that we have, and it's 252-902-3254. So in specific information about the count, that's 252-902-3254. We put that on, and that goes into the county's planning office, and Lynn, that's where her office is at. So,
But Jim, I'm going to say first, thank you for who you are, the work that all of y'all do to make this happen, and the resource the people need. Y'all have done a lot in this community, even on the Wednesday nights, even that things that Margaret played a part, as well as Lynn and so many of that coalition of helping people with rents and this information that they have. So I just want to tell you thank you.
I appreciate you too, Pastor Coles.
In the work that you're doing. As you listen to this broadcast here, this is a time to really get involved. I'm also speaking for those who may have heard of the community Crossroad, the shelter. They do a lot more than put people into the shelter. And we all need finance help on things to move in this world that we live in. Money's not everything, but it sure go up there with oxygen. So we need to say how we can help. And those who may have folks out there, call the 252-902-3241, if that's the correct number. That's
3254.
54. You be down somebody else's number. Yeah, so this ain't me.
And that's Lynn James'
That's Lynn
number,
James.
and she's the housing coordinator for Pitt County Planning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me repeat that number again: 252-902-3254. Again, we thank you for listening to the broadcast. We all need your help here in this community. We all part of this community. Just help us get the information out. Be involved in the count. And Jim, is any final words you want to say before we say goodbye to them?
No, I just appreciate the time, Pastor Coles. Thank you.
Jim, you're more than welcome. And again, as I close out, I have about a minute or so left. I want to dedicate this minute to a friend of me and Jim, Miss Margaret Dixon, who's been really involved in helping us in our community, social service. She worked with DSS. She helped with foster children. She helped with so many projects. She worked with the disaster recovery. You can call her. She worked at the shelter. We want to let you know she have left us, went on home, and we are praying and just thanking God that we had the opportunity to have her a part of this network. She was a trooper in this community. Again, thank you, and we'll see you at the next broadcast.